Sequoia is the company that was involved in the very serious miscalculation of the Chicago vote in 2007, wasn't it?
I believe that's correct, yes, sir.
And they were using Smartmatic software, right?
Correct. And the software, the licensing agreements are pretty well. It's a good spider chart for all of these companies. They all share a common DNA in the software code.
And that company, Smartmatic, their roots are in Venezuela, isn't that right?
Yes, sir. Hugo Chavez was one of the founders, and invested, I think, 28% ownership in the initial setup of the SGO election systems.
And they have been involved in several South American elections that were fixed, altered.
Argentina, Bolivia, Singapore, Venezuela, Italy, several.
And just to simplify things, and we can make this available to you, and we have several witnesses that go back to that period of time who were involved in the vote fixing, who have looked at the vote pattern in Arizona and elsewhere and said that the pattern matches the way in which Dominion and Smartmatic, companies like that, fix votes. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Luckily, we had two that stayed behind and a Dominion employee who was willing to be honest. Not all of them are honest. So the point of that is you're part of this fraud. You also had numerous situations of your workers, your citizens, observing the poll officials helping people vote to the point of telling them who to vote for. Clear fraud. You have situations of poll workers being observed changing votes, taking ambiguous votes and making sure they were cast for Biden. And you have situations of stuffing the ballot box. And we will try to quantify those. Those are harder to quantify. But the ones involving the exclusion of observers are quantifiable, and that's 100,000.
Another day, another press conference at some arbitrary location with Rudy Giuliani ranting about more conspiracy theories. Nothing screams legitimacy like a so-called hearing at a Hyatt Regency. Although at the very least, I guess he should get points for the fact that there were no sex shops touting dildo sales within eyeshot. Now, right off the bat, the crux of Giuliani's argument here is that Dominion Voting Systems is owned by the company Smartmatic. And because Smartmatic technology has been used in Venezuela's elections, Giuliani and his team are trying to draw this link and then claim that every election in the United States that used Dominion was then rigged. Only one small problem: Dominion and Smartmatic are not the same company. They have no link. One doesn't provide any software or equipment to the other. In fact, not only are they not related, but they're competitors. This is like saying that both Coke and Pepsi are soda, and so clearly the companies that make them are related. It is an entire conspiracy theory based on one really, really flimsy lie. And both companies have been perfectly forthright about this. Dominion released a statement reading, quote, "Dominion has no company ownership relationships with any member of the Pelosi family, the Feinstein family, or the Clinton Global Initiative, Smartmatic, Seidel, or any ties to Venezuela. Dominion works with all political parties, our customer base, and our government outreach practices reflect this nonpartisan approach." Smartmatic then issued its own statement saying, quote, "Smartmatic has never owned any shares or had any financial stake in Dominion Voting Systems. Smartmatic has never provided Dominion Voting Systems with any software, hardware, or any other technology. The two companies are competitors in the marketplace." Beyond that, there was no Smartmatic technology even used in any of the contested battleground states, including Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, or North Carolina. And look, I'm no election security genius like Rudy Giuliani, but if your problem is with a certain technology company rigging the votes in certain states, wouldn't the company actually being used in those states be kind of a prerequisite? And as if that wasn't enough, consider too that hand recounts and audits already disprove this notion of rigged technology. There were paper ballot recounts in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Georgia, all of which showed no discrepancies between the initial count and the recount, meaning, quite simply, that the initial count was accurate and there were no discrepancies caused by nefarious technology or software. Because despite what Giuliani spouts off about, you cannot rig paper. A Dominion Voting Systems official even went on Fox News and systematically debunked debunked all of these baseless claims perpetuated by Giuliani.
Did a Dominion machine change one vote from Biden to Trump or from Trump to Biden?
No. This is a nonpartisan American company. It is not physically possible for our machines to switch votes from one candidate to the other. Let's be very clear. Our election system is run by local elected officials and nonpartisan poll watchers. We simply provide a tool to count the ballots and to print and count ballots. There is no way such a massive fraud could have taken place, and there are no connections between our company and Venezuela, Germany, Barcelona, Kathmandu, whatever the latest conspiracy theory is.
How do you know that couldn't have taken place?
Well, it's physically impossible. Look, when a voter votes on a Dominion machine, they fill out their ballot on a touchscreen. They're given a printed copy, which they then give to a local election official for safekeeping. If any electronic interference had taken place, the tally reported electronically would not match the printed ballots. And in every case where we've looked at, in Georgia, all across the country, the printed ballots, the gold standard in election security, has matched the electronic tally.
Some of the people watching you now, I mean, they don't believe you. They think you're lying. They're going to say, of course you're going to say Dominion's not guilty of anything because you represent the company.
Right. Well, I've got the facts on my side, and the president's attorneys will go on to press conferences, will go on TV and make these crazy allegations. And then 30 times they've gone to court and they have not offered a scintilla of proof. So all I can say is until we would love to see any facts or evidence they have. Thus far, we have seen none.
The president calls your company a, quote, radical left company. The software created for Hugo Chavez to steal the election of Venezuela, that software allegedly imported into the United States to steal the election for Joe Biden. Is that true?
No. We are a nonpartisan American company. We have no connections with Venezuela whatsoever. Nothing that they're saying is remotely true.
Are you foreign funded?
No, we're funded by American capitalists.
Can a poll worker change the codes to vote for, steal the election for Joe Biden, for example?
No, because if they change the code, no matter what a poll worker does, and we're talking about elected officials, we're talking about nonpartisan poll watchers, the paper ballots wouldn't match the electronic record. Again, this is the gold standard of election security. We have printed paper ballots that the voter reviews showing how they voted so that we need to go, if we need to go back in a tightly contested race, as we have right now, we can do an audit, we can do a recount, we can physically match a printed ballot to a vote recorded by an electronic machine.
And that's called the paper trail. I mean, Sidney Powell is out there saying that the Democrats had 35,000 votes around the country. And when they had a hand recount in Georgia, the hand recount matched your machines, the Dominion machines. So let's say a poll worker.
We don't even work, right? Like they keep talking about, they're asking for recounts in Milwaukee and Dane County in Wisconsin or in Pennsylvania. We don't have machines in those jurisdictions. In fact, in Pennsylvania, in the 14 counties where Dominion machines were used, the president won 52% of the vote.
And if it seems like he's exasperated, it might have something to do with a certain crackpot lawyer with hair dye running down his face, desperately lying whenever he comes near a microphone in any random alleyway or hotel lobby. And speaking of hotels, I want to touch on one more set of points brought up by Giuliani. He goes on to claim that poll workers were telling people who to vote for. He claims that poll workers were changing votes. He claims that ambiguous votes were changed to Biden. And he claims that the ballot boxes were stuffed for Biden. All serious claims, and yet shockingly, the Trump team never bothered to present a modicum of evidence of any of this in court where it actually matters. Sure, they'll hold kangaroo hearings in hotels that are such a farce that even Fox News won't cover it live, but in a courtroom, in front of a judge, where they could actually do something about it? Nah. Giuliani even admits that his claims are, quote, hard to quantify, which is his way of saying that the claims he's making are without proof. When you make a claim that you don't have any way of backing up, it's not that it's hard to quantify, it's that it's hearsay. It's misinformation. It is a lie propped up by a bunch of sore losers too pathetic to accept the fact that their guy lost. And look, we could go on and on, but the point here is clear. Rudy Giuliani is lying. If he wasn't, he'd have offered proof. And yet at no point in any of these rambling diatribes has he offered even a shred of evidence for what he's saying. Because the point isn't to prove his claims, it's to perpetuate a disinformation campaign. He is as shameless as the guy he's working on behalf of, and he's only serving to cement his position in history as a corrupt hack trying to undermine our democracy, and failing while doing it. If you like this video, please check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deep dive into the week's most important stories and interview major players in politics, including Kamala Harris, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, Mary Trump, Al Franken, Cory Booker, and many, many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.